Have you ever watched someone walk into a room and, without saying a single word, the entire atmosphere changes around them? Conversations soften, people straighten up, no one talks over them, no one casually wastes their time. It's like they're wearing an invisible crown you can't quite see but you definitely feel. And then you compare that to how you move through the world. You speak and people check their phones. You make a point and someone talks right over you. You're always the one rearranging your schedule, being understanding, giving second and third chances while others use your time like it's disposable. On some level, it feels unfair, like they were born with something you just didn't get. Maybe they had rich parents, better genes, a louder voice, some natural charisma that you missed out on. But what if I told you that's not what's happening at all? What if I told you they're not accidentally respected? They're doing it on purpose. That there is a brutal, simple psychological rule they're obeying, probably without even realizing it, and you've been breaking that rule your entire life. Once you understand this rule, you'll start to see your past differently. You'll see every time someone cut you in line and you laughed it off. Every time a friend canceled on you last minute and you said no problem, while something inside you sank. Every time someone borrowed your ideas, your time, your kindness, your money, and you pretended not to notice because calling it out felt rude. You didn't just let it go. You taught them a lesson. You can do that to me. There will be no cost. And human beings, being what they are, heard that lesson loud and clear. You didn't know it, but you were writing the script that everyone else now uses when they interact with you. Then you look at the people who don't seem to have these problems. You never see them being talked down to. You never see them getting trampled by drama, ghosted repeatedly, used as emotional trash cans. People might disagree with them, sure, but they rarely disrespect them. These people are not living under a different sky. They've just stopped playing the game you're still trapped in. The game of needing to be liked at any cost. To really get what's happening, you have to rewind way back to where your need for approval was born. Think about when you were a kid. Approval was survival. If your parents were happy, you were safe. If your teachers were pleased, you were praised. If other kids liked you, you were accepted. So you learned the rules. Don't upset anyone. Don't talk back. Don't make things awkward. Don't say no. Don't be selfish. Don't be too much. You got rewarded for being easy to handle, for making other people's lives smoother, even when it made yours harder. You grew up in a system that told you, if they like you, you're okay. If they don't, you're in danger. Fast forward to adulthood and that wiring hasn't disappeared. It's just wearing new clothes. Now it's your boss's approval, your partner's approval, your friend group's approval, the approval of people online that you've never even met. You post something and your brain lights up with little dopamine hits every time you see a like, a heart, a compliment. You say yes when you mean no, and the relief of avoiding conflict feels like a reward. Your nervous system is still convinced that being liked equals being safe. But here's the twist that nobody told you. In the adult world, the very thing that once kept you safe is now exactly what makes you weak. Every person who has ever walked over you, disrespected you, or taken you for granted has one thing in common. Consciously or not, they could feel that you needed their approval more than they needed yours. They could smell the fear of disapproval on you. The fear of being seen as rude, difficult, demanding, selfish, too sensitive. And once someone senses that fear, you become easy to control because they know what you won't do. You won't confront. You won't walk away. You won't let them be upset with you. So they push a little, then a little more. They cancel more freely. They show up late more often. They make sharper jokes at your expense. They test how far they can lean on you, how much you'll tolerate, how little they can give and still keep you around. At first you tell yourself they don't mean it, that you're being too sensitive. But over time, a pattern appears. Your kindness doesn't earn you more respect, it earns you more exploitation. While this is happening, there's another type of person moving through the same world with entirely different results. They might not even be as nice as you. They might be less understanding, less agreeable, less eager to please. And yet, people show up on time for them. People think twice before canceling on them. People ask before borrowing their things. When someone crosses their line, it rarely happens twice. What's the difference? It isn't IQ. It isn't status. It isn't that the universe loves them more. It's that they've made a decision you haven't made yet. They value respect over approval. They would rather disappoint someone else than betray themselves. They would rather be momentarily disliked than permanently disrespected. Deep down, they've internalized a principle that the Italian political thinker Machiavelli spelled out 500 years ago while observing rulers, soldiers, and ordinary people. He said that if you can't be both loved and feared, it's safer to lean on fear. Most people misread that line and assume he was glorifying cruelty. He wasn't. In psychological terms, fear means awareness of consequence. It means people know there's a cost for crossing a certain line. Most people you meet are not truly evil or truly noble. They're simply responsive to incentives. No cost? They do what's easiest. Clear cost? They think twice. When you're obsessed with being liked, you remove all cost. You erase your own edges and think that will make you more lovable. It doesn't. It just makes you easier to use. You become like free Wi-Fi. Everyone's happy you're there, but no one respects you, protects you, or thinks deeply about what you need. Respect works differently. Respect is not built on how nice you are. It's built on the unspoken understanding that there are things you simply will not accept. Not because you're cruel, not because you're dramatic, because you know your value and you act like it. The people in your life feel this at a gut level. They might never say it, but they sense when certain jokes won't land with you, when certain requests will be denied, when certain patterns will result in distance. And as a result, they move differently around you. They speak more carefully. They keep their promises more often. They think before they test your limits, because they know your limits are real. You have probably felt this difference with people in your own life. A tough teacher, a serious coach, a friend who always tells you exactly what they think. You might not always like them in every moment, but if something really mattered, they'd be the first people you'd go to because you trust them. They won't lie to you to spare your feelings. They won't enable your worst habits just so you won't be mad at them. That's the paradox. The people you respect the most are rarely the ones who chased your approval. They're the ones who were willing to lose your approval rather than lose themselves. On the other side of the spectrum is approval addiction. And that's exactly what it is, an addiction. Just like any substance, approval changes your brain chemistry. Compliments, praise, kisses, likes, positive comments, they all give you small dopamine bursts. When you've built your identity around these bursts, you start needing a steady stream of them just to feel okay. You post to be seen. You say yes to avoid being judged. You stay in conversations, friendships, jobs, and relationships that drain you because you're terrified of the withdrawal that would come if you pulled away and lost that hit of validation. People who understand this can control you with almost no effort. They don't need to threaten you directly. They just need to offer small rewards and small withdrawals. A compliment when you do what they want, coldness when you don't, warmth when you're convenient, distance when you're not. They're essentially holding the emotional remote control for your sense of worth and pressing buttons whenever it benefits them. The terrifying part is that most of this is not even conscious. They're just responding to what works. You teach them what works based on what you tolerate and what you chase. If ignoring your messages makes you chase harder, they'll ignore you. If guilt-tripping you makes you comply, they'll guilt-trip you. If anger makes you back down, they'll get angry. Every time you respond to these tactics, you reward them. You reinforce the behavior. You dig your own trap a little deeper. So the real question is this: how do you cut the strings? How do you move from being an approval addict to someone who commands quiet, natural respect? Not with fake bravado, not with pretending not to care, but with actual, grounded, unstoppable confidence. It begins with one brutal decision. You must be willing to lose people. Not everyone, not recklessly, but the ones whose connection to you is based entirely on your willingness to bend. As long as you are terrified of anyone walking away, you are not free. That doesn't mean you should become reckless or burn everything down. It means you start choosing self-respect over peacekeeping, truth over performance, reality over illusions. Practically, it starts small. The next time someone crosses a minor line, instead of laughing it off, you pause. You might say, "Don't talk to me like that," in a calm voice. You might not explain. You might simply let the silence hang. You might choose to leave early from a hangout where you're being disrespected. You might stop volunteering information to someone who consistently dismisses it. The first few times you do this, your body will freak out. You might feel shaky, guilty, like you've done something terrible. You've spent years being rewarded for folding. Now you're choosing the opposite. But stay with that feeling. Watch what happens next. Some people will immediately adjust. They'll apologize. They'll backtrack. They'll test you a little and then realize you were serious. With those people, your relationship will actually get healthier because respect has entered the picture. Others will push harder. They'll call you sensitive, arrogant, ungrateful. They might sulk or go quiet. With them, you'll suddenly see the truth. They never liked you. They liked how easy it was to get what they wanted from you. Losing those connections will sting, but it will also set you free. Every person who walks away when you stop betraying yourself is creating space for someone who can meet you with respect. As this process unfolds, your sense of control begins to shift. You no longer walk into every social interaction wondering, will they like me? Instead, you walk in asking much better questions. Do I like them? Do they treat me well? Do they respect my time, my boundaries, my honesty? Approval was always a one-way street. Respect is a two-way contract. You're no longer begging to be chosen. You're choosing as well. To strengthen this, you start adopting new internal rules. First, you decide to speak less and act more. When you're trapped in approval mode, you talk endlessly. You explain, defend, over-justify. You write paragraphs to people who sent you one-line insults. You deliver long speeches to friends who keep crossing the same lines. You think if you can just make them understand, they'll treat you better. But people who rely on your eagerness to be liked are not confused. They're comfortable. The more you explain, the more you show that you're trying to win them. The more you try to win them, the less they feel they have to value you. So you flip the pattern. When someone is respectful, you're open and engaging. When someone is dismissive, you stop explaining. You say what you need to say once, calmly and clearly, and then you let your actions finish the conversation. You stop chasing, stop over-texting, stop apologizing for things that are not your fault. Your silence becomes your strongest sentence. Second, you commit to never chasing approval again. Appreciation, yes. Mutual care, absolutely. But chasing? Never. That looks like not double-texting someone who leaves you hanging for days. It looks like not twisting yourself into knots when someone is vague or cold. You simply match their energy or move on. It looks like saying, "I understand you're upset," instead of, "Please don't be mad at me, I'll do anything." You might still care what they think, but you refuse to trade your dignity for their temporary comfort. This refusal creates something people can feel. You are no longer emotionally cheap. Third, you train yourself to stay calm under attack. People who are used to your old patterns will test the new version of you. They'll poke at your buttons to see if they still work. They'll try the old tricks: guilt, anger, sarcasm, silence. The worst thing you can do is explode or collapse. Both reactions tell them they still own real estate in your head. Instead, imagine putting an extra half second between what they say and what you do. In that small space, ask yourself, what response keeps my power? Often, the answer is a calm no, a simple, that doesn't work for me, or silence while you physically remove yourself from the situation. When people realize they can no longer drag you into emotional chaos on command, they lose the incentive to keep trying. Fourth, you cultivate a little unpredictability. Not games, not manipulation, just refusing to be stuck in a role. If you've been the one who always says yes, start saying no when you actually mean no. If you've been the one who listens to everyone's problems at 2 a.m., sometimes let the phone ring and deal with it in the morning. If you've been the one who never expresses an opinion, start sharing your real thoughts calmly and directly. When you become less predictable, people are forced to pay attention. They stop assuming you'll just go along with whatever they want. They start treating your decisions as something to be considered, not taken for granted. Finally, you embrace scarcity and distance as tools rather than fears. Scarcity simply means recognizing that your time, attention, and emotional energy are rare resources. You have a limited amount to give, so you choose where to place it. That might mean you're no longer the person who shows up to every event just to prove you care. You show up where it truly matters, where your presence is valued, not used. It might mean you limit long, draining conversations with people who never change their behavior. It might mean you keep some parts of your life private, not out of fear, but out of self-respect. Distance gives you clarity. When you step back from constantly managing other people's feelings, you suddenly have room to feel your own. You begin to notice which relationships leave you calmer and stronger, and which ones leave you anxious and depleted. You start to see where you've been shrinking yourself to fit inside other people's comfort zones. From there, you can make real adult choices. This stays, this goes, this changes. The more you live this way, the more a deep, quiet confidence takes root inside you. Not the loud, performative confidence of someone who needs everyone to know they don't care. The subtle kind that shows up in your posture, your eyes, your tone. You no longer rush to fill silence with nervous words. You no longer explain basic decisions. You no longer accept invitations to battles you didn't choose. You no longer feel compelled to defend your worth, because you've already decided it. And here's the beautiful part. As you stop begging to be liked, two surprising things happen. You lose people you never truly had, and you gain the one thing you've been chasing all along: genuine respect. The ones who leave were never with you. They were with the version of you that sacrificed itself to keep them comfortable. Let them go. The ones who stay or arrive later will be drawn to your strength, your boundaries, your authenticity. You won't have to perform for them. You'll be able to relax because you'll know they're here for who you are, not for how much of yourself you're willing to give up. And in the middle of all of this, something even more important shifts: your relationship with yourself. You stop waking up angry at yourself for what you allowed yesterday. You stop replaying conversations thinking, "Why didn't I just say something?" You stop living in constant low-level resentment toward everyone around you because you know finally that you are no longer a volunteer in your own mistreatment. You start to trust yourself. You start to admire yourself. You start to like yourself. Not because others told you you're likable, but because you've watched yourself do hard, honest things in the name of self-respect. That is real confidence. That is the kind that doesn't crack when someone rolls their eyes, or leaves you on red, or talks behind your back. It doesn't mean you never feel pain or rejection. It means you understand that those experiences say more about them than about your value. You no longer give strangers, flaky friends, or insecure coworkers the authority to decide how you see yourself. You take that authority back. So now the question becomes, what are you going to do with this? You can nod along, feel a little called out, maybe even a little angry, and then go back to your old patterns. Or you can decide that today is the day you start rewiring the way you move through the world. Not tomorrow, not when things calm down, but now, in the very next interaction you have. When someone makes a joke that crosses your line, will you laugh and shrink, or will you look them in the eye and say, "Don't talk to me like that"? When someone asks for a favor you don't have the energy or desire to give, will you push yourself to say, "Sure, no problem"? Or will you calmly say, "I can't do that this time"? When your phone buzzes with yet another person who only calls when they need something, will you rush to reply, or will you pause and ask, "Is this how I want to keep showing up?" You do not have to become cruel. You do not have to become cold. You simply have to become honest, first with yourself and then with everyone else. Honest about what you will accept. Honest about what you feel. Honest about the fact that you were not put on this earth to be a background character in other people's stories. Machiavelli said that it is not titles that honor men, but men that honor titles. You don't need a new label, a new aesthetic, or a new online identity. You need to start honoring yourself in every small decision, every boundary, every yes, and every no. That is how you build a presence that commands respect without you ever needing to demand it. If you've listened to this point, I know something about you. You're tired. Tired of pretending certain things don't bother you. Tired of watching other people move with a confidence you secretly crave. Tired of shrinking yourself for people who wouldn't slow down a step for you. You wouldn't still be here if part of you wasn't ready to change that. So let's turn this from theory into a line in the sand. I want you to go to the comments right now and write this affirmation in your own words. Respect over approval. My confidence is mine. Type it out. Make your nervous system see it. Then right under that, tell me where this hit you the hardest. Was it the idea that your need to be liked is actually making you weak? Was it realizing how people use your hunger for validation to control you? Was it the thought of enforcing consequences instead of endlessly explaining yourself? Or was it the idea of becoming more scarce and selective with your time? Share one real situation from your life where you now see that you trained someone to disrespect you, and tell me what you're going to do differently next time that situation appears. Your story will not only lock this in for you, it will also wake up someone else reading the comments who badly needs to see they're not alone. If you want more content that doesn't just flatter you, but actually challenges you to reclaim your power, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss what's coming next. But more important than subscribing, more important than liking, is this. Take what you've just heard and apply it to the very next moment life gives you. Because in a world full of people begging to be liked, the person who no longer needs approval to stand tall is rare. And in human psychology, what is rare is respected. Be that person. Start today. And then come back and tell me in the comments exactly how your world begins to shift when you finally decide that your respect is worth more than anyone's approval.